For now, we will not consider them as. Oh, there they are. Delegate of Egypt, are you there?
Yeah.
Are you present or present and voting?
Oh, yeah. The Arab Republic of Egypt is present and voting.
Present and voting, noted. Delegate of Ethiopia,
Delegates of Ethiopia is present and voting.
present and voting, noted. Delegate of France,
Delegate of is present and voting.
present and voting, noted. Delegate of Jamaica does not seem to be present at the moment. Delegate of the Republic of Korea,
The delegate of the Republic of Korea is present and voting.
noted. The delegate of Malta, it would appear that they're also not present. Along with the delegate of Netherlands, who I don't think is also here. So, and now the delegate of Philippines,
Delegate of Philippines is
present and voting, I believe. I could not hear
Delegate,
you.
you are not audible.
I could not hear you.
hello.
Mm, yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'll repeat. The delegate of Philippines is present and voting.
Present and voting, noted. And with that, that is our presence. Good lord. Wait, nine. Which means there are only 6 delegates in here, which means the number of DR sponsors will minimum of DR sponsors will be just one, and the minimum amount of signatories will also be just one. Well, now we will move on to the general speakers list. Are there any delegates that wish to be put into the general speakers list? Ethiopia, do you wish to be included? Or is your hand still not lowered yet?
Oh, I haven't lowered my hand. Sorry.
Yes. And delegates wishing to be added to the general speakers list? For now, we will entertain, let us say, three speakers. Delegate of Ethiopia,
Okay, delegates of Ethiopia would like to raise a motion to have an unmoderated caucus for 20 minutes.
at the chair's discretion, this is currently a session for GSL, but seeing that there are no delegates who wish to be put into the general speakers list, the chair will allow that. That is in order. So a motion from the delegate of Ethiopia for an unmoderated caucus for 20 minutes. Are, are there any other points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we will directly vote on the motion brought forward by the delegate of Ethiopia for an unmoderated caucus for 20 minutes. Are there any seconds to this motion? If you second this motion, please raise your hand. Okay. Any objections? Seeing none, this motion automatically passes, and we are now entering an unmoderated caucus for 20 minutes, starting on the rapporteur's marks. starts from now. All right, so the time for unmoderated caucus has elapsed. We will now open back the floor to points and motions. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Delegate of South Korea.
The delegates of South Korea would like to propose a moderated caucus, 5-1, to the topic of the importance of domestic tourism or travel to increase local economics.
That is in order. And then, see, are there any other points or motions on the floor? Delegate of France.
Delegate of France would like to propose a moderated caucus from 5-1 in the topic of fiscal and monetary policies measure to revive the economy.
That is in order. Are there any more points or motions on the floor? Delegate of Ethiopia.
Delegates of Ethiopia would like to raise a motion about the long-term plan to deal with economic crisis as the effect of COVID-19.
And for how long would this be?
For 5-1.
5-1 also. Okay. That is in order. Thank you. We will now move to vote upon the first motion brought forward by the delegate of South Korea regarding the importance of domestic tourism to increase national economy. A moderated caucus for 5-1. Are there any seconds for this motion? Okay, fully noted. Any objections? Seeing none, this motion automatically passes. We will now move to moderated caucus for 5-1 by South Korea regarding the importance of domestic tourism to increase the national economy. South Korea, would you like to speak first or last?
Last, please.
Last. That's noted. Yeah. Are there 4 more speakers wishing to speak regarding this topic? Delegate of France. Delegate of Ethiopia. Delegate of Australia. And the delegate of Philippines. We now enter to our first speaker of the topic, Delegate of France. Delegate of France, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. As we have said before that tourism makes the 10% of total French economy, and therefore tourism has been a very important sector to be looked at in every our programs to recover economy. Now, Delegate of France believes that there should be several key measures taken to further promote the sustainability of our tourism and increase the tourism sector, specifically on the domestic sector. We believe that domestic sector plays a huge role in tourism as well as in promoting the GDP as well, and contributing to the GDP. Therefore, we believe that there should be a policy or a framework that that further defines the policy stakeholders of.
Delegate, your time has elapsed.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the next speaker for this topic, the delegate of Ethiopia. Delegate of Ethiopia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, fellow delegates. Uh, so we believe that the countries with a low number of COVID-19 victims can open their borders for tourism. For instance, I have an example in several African nations that has opened their borders since the mid-June and or July because their number of COVID-19 has decreased or has a stable number of victims. And also, if I want to mention about the Asian nations such as Taiwan and New Zealand, they have opened their tourism for domestic tourists. Especially in Taiwan, they open domestic flights regularly as normal, so it increase the number of tourism and increase the number of economics from the tourism sectors. So I think that's important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate of Ethiopia. Now moving on to the Delegate of Australia. The Delegate of Australia, you now have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Delegates. Uh, in Australia, we believe that domestic tourism offers the main chance for driving recovery and supporting on the tourism sector. The domestic tourism economy is significant and accounts for around 75% of the total tourism economy in OECD countries. Although this is unlikely that domestic tourism could compensate for the decline of international tourism flows, as we know that the international tourism will gain and make a high income in our country. But in this condition, we highly recommend the domestic tourism because it can heavily dependent and to a significant macroeconomic economic effect, such as it will make a high impact to the income of the many businesses and many jobs or many companies.
Delegate,
Thank
your
you.
time has elapsed. We now move to the Delegate of Philippines. Delegate of Philippines, you now have the floor.
Chairs, distinguished delegates, and this time of pandemic, since we haven't fully recover from the pandemic, we suggest that we use the online platform to promote our tourism even more, and we can make a plan for travel promotion for tourism in the future. So once the pandemic is over, we can use the tourism sector to strengthen our economic, and we also proposed a regulation on free visa policy once the pandemic is over, so the tourism can get back to normal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate of Philippines. Last to speak is the Delegate of South Korea. Delegate of South Korea, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, honorable chairs. And we, South Korea, also agree with um, Philippines and France and also Ethiopia and Australia. Uh, and according to the Korea Tourism Organization, the total number of tourists is down nearly 70% through May. Foreigners accounted for the loss of 53.3% of hotel guests since data of 2018. And the Republic of Korea is currently returning to rely on domestic tourism to help survive the economic recessions. Um, as the success of disease prevention, as I mentioned earlier in the first committee session, we are strict to implement the 3T strategy, test, trace, and treatment strategy on all, especially tourism spots. Whereas international travel to be managed cross-border traffic based on risk assessment and the principle of openness by imposing stringent restrictions to inbound travelers from a
Delegate,
limited
your time
number
has
of.
elapsed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, the session of a moderate caucus has elapsed, and we now return to the floor to accept any points or motions. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Are there any points or motions on the floor? Once again, are there any points or motions on the floor? Yes, Delegate of Ethiopia.
Thank you, Chair. Delegate of Ethiopia would like to propose a motion for 5 to 1 regarding the long-term plans for the COVID-19 crisis, economic crisis.
That is in order. Thank you very much. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we will directly vote upon the motion brought forward by the delegate of Ethiopia regarding a moderate caucus for 5 to 1 regarding the long-term plan to deal with the economic crisis as the effect of COVID-19. Are there any seconds for this motion? Any seconds, delegates? Okay, any objections? Any objections? Seeing none, this motion automatically passes. And we are now in a moderated caucus for 5 to 1. Delegate of Ethiopia, would you like to speak first or last?
I would like to speak last.
Last. Noted. We will now entertain room for 4 speakers to speak regarding this topic. Are there any speakers wishing to speak about this topic? Anyone? This motion was voted for with no objections, and that means I'm assuming that means you do not object to this and you are willing to speak for this topic. So, are there any delegates wishing to speak regarding this topic?
Points, Chair. Can I see the
Yeah,
motion
yeah.
once again?
Oh, yes,
Thank
definitely.
you.
The motion is long-term plans to deal with the economic crisis as the effect of COVID-19. With that being
Okay,
said,
thank you, Chairs.
all right. With that being said, are there any delegates wishing to be put in this moderated caucus? Long-term plans, people. Delegate France. Any more? We require room for 3 more. Seeing none, for now would we will let we will give the floor to France to give their speech. Delegate France, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Delegates, France believes that long-term solutions are needed for our sustainability of our programs and for the sustainability of the global economy. Therefore, Delegate of France proposes several points on this. The first one is the strengthening of the fiscal and monetary policy, as well as making the risk mitigation plan, which consists of the of which first will be going to by recognizing each country's problem solutions through our research development body, and then after that we will also be making sure that every policies made, for example, the policies to ease the loans and also for the policies to for the liquidity facilities and the credit facilities for the
Delegate, your time has elapsed. Thank you very
thank
much. Your time has elapsed. Yes. Now, now, with that being said, are there any more speakers wishing to speak about this topic? Delegate Franz wants to. Perhaps other delegates than the delegate of France? At the chair's discretion, we will allow the delegate of France to speak twice for this particular topic.
thank you, Chair.
And up next, the delegate of Philippines as well. And and we now give back the floor to the delegate of France.
Thank you, Chair. So delegates, continuing what we have said, that there should be reinforcement on the monetary and fiscal policy, as well as the human resources training, in which we will develop skills of the people, and especially those who are unemployed affected to the COVID-19 and also youth. So through these 2 points, main points, the first one is the reinforcement of the fiscal and monetary policy by having reinforced the loans for small, medium enterprises and also very small enterprises, and also uh, reinforces the businesses to keep them afloat in the meantime. And also by that also we believe that one thing else that is important is the human resource training for unemployed and also for youths. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, delegate of France. Next to speak is the delegate of Philippines. The delegate of Philippines, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, fellow delegates. Our economy is basically sustained by domestic consumption, and what we're suggesting for the other countries is to rebuild the consumer confidence and capability, and also to support essential goods production that is heavily depend on manufacturing products, such as the production of food, beverage, chemical products, and health-related manufactures. We also suggest that the agricultural uh, sectors should be our concern in the long term to ensure sufficient food supply for the long term. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, delegate of Philippines. We will entertain one final speaker before we proceed to the delegate of Ethiopia. It, is there a delegate who wishes to be put in this moderated caucus? Anyone? This slot must be filled. Delegate of Egypt. You have been recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. So regarding the long-term solution for the economy and recession, we, the Arab Republic of Egypt, suggest that we have to tap in the informal economy through the microfinance solutions in order to improve the accessibility of the social housing fund. And then changing the procurement methods of large housing projects. Contracts are currently being awarded only a build-only basis. More integrated contracts that include infrastructure work such as utilities and roads will improve the synergy between the Housing Ministry and the Ministry of Transport. And then ensuring the new development are built with the necessary basic service, adequate transportation, infrastructure to increase living standards and prevent disconnect community and the emergence of the new slums. Thank you. I would like to yield my time back to the chair.
All right, thank you, delegate of Egypt, although yielding would not be necessary since this is a moderated caucus. And now we move on to the final delegate for this topic, the delegate of Ethiopia. Delegate of Ethiopia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, fellow delegates. Ethiopian believe that we need a long-term plan for COVID-19, especially for this economic segment. This is the issues that Raleigh mentioned. That's why Ethiopia need to raise this along with other delegates here. We need to realize that the vaccine hasn't found yet, and we don't know where the vaccine when the vaccine found. And Ethiopian believe production from natural resources that for the countries that depend on agriculture are important, and followed by rethink, shape our think about the future of global travel industry, global paper produce, and global gold industry that, as mentioned from several articles, are also impacted by these uh, issues. And then we should adapt and rethink entire portfolio of company if there is company that affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, delegate of Ethiopia, and that that brings an end to this moderated caucus. And we will now go back to the floor for more points or and motions. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Any points or motions on the floor? Delegate of Philippines.
We would like to propose an unmoderated caucus for 10 minutes. Is that in order?
That is in order. Thank you, delegate.
Thank you.
Are there any more points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we'll, we'll move to vote upon the motion brought forward by the delegate of Philippines for an unmoderated caucus for 10 minutes. Are there any seconds for this motion? Philippines, look at France. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, this motion automatically passes, and we are now in a unmoderated caucus, starting from now. Okay, so the time for unmoderated caucus has elapsed. Whose feedback is that from? Anyway, the time for unmoderated caucus has elapsed. And we are now opening the floor for. Uh, excuse me, whose mic is that? I'm still not sure, but anyway, we are again opening the floor for points and motions. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Any points or motions? What's wrong with this? Delegates, are there any points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we will now revert back to the general speakers list. Are, are there any delegates wishing to be input in the general speakers list? Delegate of France. Rapporteur. General speakers list, please. Delegate of France. Are there any other delegates? Seeing none. Oh, delegate of Ethiopia. Any others? Seeing none, we will now give the floor to the delegate of France. Delegate of France, time is yours for 1 minute and a half.
Thank you, chairs. Delegates, as we have mentioned in our unmoderated caucus earlier, that we have addressed a lot of problems which we believe are essential to the economic recovery and to access our economy back from recession. Delegate of France would also stress better on the long-term solution, which is to support the businesses to make them sustainable by having this solvency support instrument, which will be the funding guarantee for the businesses that are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, by encouraging partnership with the regional development banks. For example, the European Investment Bank and the Asian Development Bank. Through these measures, the Delegate of France believes that this will further boost the uh, economic sector after post the pandemic or post the vaccine distribution throughout the world. Yeah, and to measure that, we Delegate of France also believe that there should be standardization towards this solvency support instrument, in which we have taken measure on which companies will be eligible for this solvency support instrument and which will be not. And that will be also, there will be a check and balance system to further
Delegate, your time has
monitor.
elapsed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the delegate of Ethiopia. Delegate of Ethiopia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, fellow delegates. Ethiopia stands in a position that long-term solution to tackle this is really needed because it's a common problem. It's needed to make our eyes open that it must long-term, because we need to increase our solidarity as a nations in the world as a nation in a regional partnership, as a nation between another nation in a bilateral agreement, and by increased solidarity means we need to cope and make an agreement together for the future of this situation.
Is that it? In, in that case, delegate, you have spent 45 seconds speaking. To whom would you like to yield your remaining time?
Yield back to the chair.
That is in order. Thank you, Delegate of Ethiopia. Are there any other delegates wishing to be included in the general speakers list? Seeing none. See, Seeing none, we will open the floor once again. 2 points or motion. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Delegate of France, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Delegate of France would propose an unmoderated caucus for another 15 minutes. Is that in order?
I'm sorry, Delegate. I do not believe that is in order since we have just finished. On second thought, at the chair's discretion, how many minutes was it?
15?
15. Mm, we are very tight on time. Is 5 all right?
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we'll vote upon the motion brought forward by the Delegate of France for an unmoderated caucus for 5 minutes. Any seconds to this motion? Any objections? Seeing none, we are now in another unmoderated caucus for 5 minutes starting from now. And our time for the unmoderated caucus has elapsed. And, and now the chairs would like to notify the delegates that the chairs have accepted a draft resolution numbered Draft Resolution 1.1 submitted by the delegates of the Philippines and Ethiopia. The delegates may now motion for a panel of authors to present said draft resolution. With that being said, are there any points or motions on the floor? Delegate of Philippines. Delegate of Philippines.
Oh, sorry. We would like to propose a motion for discussing the draft resolution 1.1 that have been submitted.
That is in order. That is a motion for a panel of authors, and this motion needs not to be voted upon and will immediately be done. And perhaps allow me to distribute the um, draft resolution as well. One second. Can everyone see it?
Okay, we can
Every,
see it, chairs.
all right. The, the chairs will give time for, let's say, 4 minutes for all the delegates to read through this draft resolution before the sponsors may present it for 2 minutes. So, And delegates, the reading time has elapsed. We will now proceed to give the floor to the sponsors to present their draft resolution. Delegates of Philippines and Ethiopia, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, chairs, honorable delegates. A delegate of Philippine signatories will explain the number one. They encourage economic stimulus for very small enterprises, small and medium enterprises, and mid-cap companies through the following step. The first, we need to establish export guarantees fund. It's the policy that made during the COVID-19 pandemic. So to cover the agree policyholder issued and declared guarantee for this duration. And then number two, establish subsidy program for employees in small business. So it's must held by government and maybe from loan from World Bank or IMF. And then the number three is establish the emergency support for vulnerable individuals and groups. They are who are marginalized need this support. And then the next is encourage SMEs, mid-cap companies, and VSEs to work together with the community to promote themselves. So yeah, we need to the support from the community. The community got the subsidy, and then we hope they are gonna buy from the SMEs and VECs and mid-cap companies. And the last is encourage the enterprises to manage cash flow and business fund for saving the employees and seek for high income. The number two will explain by the Philippines.
All right, thank you, Delegate of Ethiopia. We would like to present the second point, which is suggest regional cooperation between member states to have short-term program through the following actions. The first one is cooperating the safety protocols of the import and export sectors to have simplification in delivery. We suggest that the member countries have a safe protocol for import and export. And the second one is conducting short-term programs to tackle the economic impact of COVID-19. The short-term programs are important to tackle the economic recession, especially in the short term.
Delegates, your time of presentation has elapsed. We, we will now move on to questions asked by the other delegates. Now keep in mind that these questions may only be questions that can be answered by yes or no. Should should there be any kinds of other questions that like should there be other kinds of questions that the chairs will consider it out of order and will not be asked. With that being said, are there any questions regarding this draft resolution? Seeing none, we, we will now move back to open the floor to for points and motions. It, and at this point, the chairs highly recommend, since we are already over time, the chairs highly recommend for the delegates to motion for a closure of debate so that the council can move into voting procedure for this draft resolution. With that being said, are there any points or motions on the floor? Delegate of Philippines.
We would like to propose a motion for the closure of debate and resume to the voting procedure.
That is in order, delegate. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we will directly vote upon the motion brought forward by the delegate of Philippines regarding a closure of debate. Are there any seconds to this motion? Philippines, South Korea, France. Are there any objections to this motion? Objections? Seeing none, this motion automatically passes. The debate has been closed, and we will now move on to the voting procedure, for which we will report to the roll call page. The chair will now call the countries one by one and ask for their votes. Starting from rapporteur, please clear the entire table first. So starting first with the delegate of Australia. In We are voting in favor for draft resolution 1.1, starting from the delegate of Australia.
Delegates of Australia vote yes.
Moving on to the delegate of Egypt.
The delegates of Egypt vote yes.
Yes, indeed, noted. Delegate of Ethiopia.
Delegates of Ethiopia voted for in favor.
In favor. That is noted. That is noted. On to the delegate of France.
Delegate of France is saying yes, Chair.
Yes. That is fully noted. On to the delegate of the Republic of Korea. Delegate of the Republic of Korea. I'm sorry, that was in yes. Noted. Now, Putri, would you take over?
Okay, sure. The next delegate is the delegate of Malta. Delegate of Malta, okay. Delegate of Philippines.
The delegate of Philippines vote yes.
Okay. Seeing all the delegates have vote. So, Chair, please continue.
With five. Wait, wait a minute. 1, 2, 6. Perhaps we have missed a vote that we have not inputted. Let me see. 1, 2, 6. Okay, with 6 yeses and 0 nos and 0 abstentions, Draft Resolution 1.1 has been officially adopted by the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. And with that, this session will come to an end once the delegates have motioned for an adjournment of meeting. With that being said, are there any points or motions on the floor? This one's obvious.
Please raise it, delegates.
Yes, Delegate of France.
Delegate of France would be happy to raise the adjournment of the meeting.
Yes, that is in order, and this motion does not require any seconds. It automatically passes. This session of Short Diplomatic Course Foreign Policy Community Indonesia Chapter Unpad for 2020 is officially adjourned. Thank you very much, delegates.
Congratulations.
Thank you, chairs. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thank you,
very much,
Thank you, chairs.
delegates.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, delegates, for attending today's short diplomatic course. And perhaps we will now move on to directly to the feedback session. First of all, in general, in terms of everyone in here, before moving on to the individual feedback where everyone can ask us questions for 2 minutes. First of all, now I'd like to ask first, who are the first timers here? Any first timers? So South Korea, and who else? I suppose only South Korea, and I'm assuming it's not everyone else's first time then, or because if for first timers, I would say this draft resolution is quite sufficient. Although, but let's be honest, let's address the elephant in the room. the The problem with this conference so far isn't you guys, but the presence, because there are supposed to be somewhere 27 delegates present today, but in reality, only six came. Initially eight, but now there are only six. And perhaps had there been more delegates that came today, well, perhaps we would have had a more dynamic and more lively discussion. And honestly, I was expecting, like, say if USA and China had been present today, perhaps there would have been more dynamic, more disagreements, more than one block. Because even to be honest, essentially, I think even like the topic itself is almost all uh, almost all agreeable. Like there's almost no way for like multiple blocks to emerge. But with the inclusion of USA and China, that might have changed. There might be actually two blocks for this topic. And another thing I'd like to address is that all these solutions they have been elaborated very very elegantly. Although my problem with that is there's very little mention of other UN bodies that are related to ECOSOC themselves, because the thing about ECOSOC is that, as is mentioned in the study guide, ECOSOC is mostly a body that mostly recommends courses of actions to be taken by other UN agencies that specialize in certain fields, like, for example, the IMF, World Bank, UNICEF, etc. I think that these UN bodies needed to be mentioned more in relations to the actions that they can take, since, again, ECOSOC is mostly a recommendatory body, and the actions are supposed to be taken by the these other UN bodies that take recommendations from the ECOSOC themselves. So I think it could do better on that. And also, an, another tip I would mention is it would it would always help for your next MUN performances to always include uh, 5W plus 1H analysis on all of your solutions, because several of the solutions in here I'm seeing some are still a bit vague as to perhaps who's going to do it, who's going to blah, 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 blah. For example, point 1A in here, establishing an export guarantees fund to cover the IBID policy holders. Blah, 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 blah. Now, now this raises a good question. From from whom does the fund come from? Can ECOSOC even does ECOSOC even have the power to maybe give away these funds? I do not think so, since again they're a recommendatory body, and when it comes to funds, it's usually the World Bank or IMF who does these things, right? And maybe it's a good point to mention in there as well. And it's not explicitly written in there, so yeah. Again, 5 5W plus 1H analysis, it will always help. Putri, do you have any other words?
Um, Thank you, Chair. In my opinion, every delegate in here can follow the path of the committee session well enough, have the same agreement in it, and that is certainly good for the ECOSOC or UN in general should apply. But however, maybe because they are first timers, there was no elaboration yet, and I underline that the delegation here is not aware of its existence to the president voting. Actually, this issue is really debatable at all, and however, it is true. What the head chair said, because the existence of the U.S. and China doesn't exist in here, so there are a bit of difficulties to be found, and that's sad, less exciting and crowded. But that would be very, very okay. You guys, you did your best today, and don't worry, as I said before, there is always the first time in everything, and you have taken this opportunity to do well. Thank you very much for contributing, and thank you very much for trusting the head chair design and me as board of days who fill your day today. And I do hope that all of us will be even better actors when follow the next MUN soon. That's all from me.
Yeah, and the thing is, uh, please do not let this conference deter you from following more MUN conferences in the future, because believe me, actual MUNs can actually be more fun because there's more people, obviously more than six, definitely. More people, and just more a more dynamic and enthusiastic conference experience, because again there's more people, and just, seriously, I cannot stop talking about
Yes,
how few
yes.
people there are there today. But yeah, you guys should definitely try actual MUNs if you're interested, because it's definitely more than this. All right then, I suppose now we can move on to individual sessions where you guys can ask both of us questions, and suppose for the technicalities of it will be, so regarding that, the technicalities.
Or maybe we can mention one by one, Chair. How about that?
Well, I suppose, but
I already put everyone in the breakout room.
uh, alrighty then.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How to join the breakout room?
I think,
Wait, I will assign you. Wait.
yeah,
Okay, okay. All right. Oh,
Okay, everyone is already in the room. I will assign you
who's
guys
first?
to the first Australia.
Okay. Oh, alphabetically, yeah.
yeah,
Wait.
Okay, breakout room one. Is it right?
Yes, and when you guys are done, just go back to the
Yes.
main room. Okay.
gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ini udah kita aja belum ya?
Udah.
Tinggal kita.
Oke.
Suara gue habis.
Gue ketiduran anjir, gue nggak tahu.
Itu udah South Korea.
Oke.
South Korea belum join ya? Oh, udah. Belum.
Belum.
Okay, I'm back. Let's put some.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready for the next one.
Okay, wait. Have you guys received the request?
Not,
Um,
not yet.
haven't. Not yet.
Wait a minute. Co-chair, have you received the request?
Is it break room 4?
Yes.
Breakout? Okay. So
Guys, is there any
number
agenda after this? Or is it done?
Wait, there are like 3 other breakout rooms. Okay, wait.
Well, after this, there's supposed to be like an entertainment session and then the awarding session. So
Yeah. Wait, I will assign you guys to breakout room 5.
okay.
all right,
Wait.
waiting for the invitation. Udah belum tadi invitationnya atau
Tadi Putri udah masuk ya?
oh breakout? Oh ya,
Breakout room 5.
Well, kemana lagi kita?
Breakout
Breakout
room 3 bukan
room.
sih?
Ya,
3?
betul. Betul,
Oh,
betul.
breakout room 3. Oke.
Ke breakout room 3 ya, udah dikirim request-nya tadi. Udah.
Oke, artinya yang berikutnya itu breakout berapa lagi?
Breakout room 2 yang terakhir sebentar ya.
Oke.
Breakout room 2 ya tadi?
Ya, betul.
Oh ya, ini aku udah bisa.
Sip.
Syaratnya itu udah ya yang terakhir.
Udah.
Nice.
Tadi yang breakout room 3 tuh dia keluar dari Zoom karena sakit.
Iya tadi izin, tapi aku bilang nanti unmute ya kalau udah selesai, tapi ternyata gak di unmute.
Ya, jadi ini udah beres sebenarnya.
Udah.
Yang untuk apa evaluasi individu. Silakan lanjut.
I believe this is the MC's part, or
Okay. Good afternoon, delegates. Hello. Hello. Hi.
Afternoon. Hi.
Hi. Okay. Today we have learned about UN simulations, how to research, how to deliver your speech with other delegates, and try to negotiating, try to create bargaining or something like that. Okay. I know it's very hard and very great chance, right? And I believe that you did very great job. Okay, delegates, is there someone here who wants to share to us about what happened today and what you've got today? Okay, maybe I want to ask delegates of Australia. Hello, delegates of Australia.
Oh,
So, what you got today?
okay, for the short diplomatic course for the Moon 101, I really I really gained another experience with the FPCI core and FPCI members in here. But sadly, I thought that we're going to have more participants, but up until the
Okay.
end of the communications, we only have around like 8 or 7 delegates.
Okay.
Yes, but it is okay for me because I really appreciate this event, and I really look after the lessons and knowledge that other delegates might give to me, and I really appreciate all the opinions from other delegates. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, delegates of Australia. Now we are moved to delegates of Croatia, delegates of South Africa. Sorry, South Korea. Okay. what,
Yeah.
what about you, Croatia?
Yeah.
In the
So
first MUN, first short diplomatic course, I mean, right?
yeah, I think yeah, for in my opinion, I think this will be my first and last MUN, as I mentioned earlier before with the chairs.
Okay.
It was quite an experience for me because before I've just doing the committee part, being event in the last MUN in 2019, and I really enjoyed the atmosphere that we had
Yeah.
last year, and being now here being the participants, it's and being the delegates, it's really different, and it's really kind of time consuming because you have to move. Furthermore, this is online, so we have to move from windows to windows to like uh, yeah, not being able to meet in person, it's really another thing. So thank you for the committee. You have done a great job in um, completing this uh, thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karasha. Maybe that's why Karasha always give your full spirit during the community sessions. Okay, guys, maybe some of you cannot wait to our last sessions, right? So let's present our last sessions. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Wording session. Yay! Pura-pura dong.
Hey,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please join with me in welcoming Muhammad Rapazayan, Putri Samudra, Teja Kurniawan, and also Priscilla Milena to conduct our last session. Ta-da.
oh, all right then. So, okay, so we have all been here all day, all the way from like 8 a.m. up until now. It's almost 3 p.m. And I believe this is the moment we've all been waiting for. It is time to end it, and we will start first of all with verbal commendation. The award of verbal commendation goes to, this is quite a tough choice for us, the delegates of Australia and Egypt. Hey.
Yay!
All right then. And and next we are moving to the honorable mention. Oh, I just noticed the slide. Well, I suppose we'll actually mention the best position papers first, and this goes to
Du-du-du-du-du-du-du.
the delegate of South Korea.
Yay!
Yay! Congratulations.
Congratulations for getting an award on what might be your first and last MUN. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
No problem. And on to next, honorable mention. This award in particular goes to, there you go,
Thank you,
the delegate
Chair.
of France.
Thank you.
All right, on to the next one. The most outstanding delegate. Uh, this one, or perhaps I should hand over the honors to Putri.
Okay, so the most outstanding delegate goes to delegate of Philippines. Yay!
Yay!
Thank you, Chair.
And the last part, which is the best delegate, goes to the only man in
Whoa.
here, Glenn
Hey.
Matthew from
Yay, congratulations.
Congrats, Glenn.
Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
all of you.
Okay. And yes, that concludes our awarding session for today. Again, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for attending this conference session, even all the way to the end, even though some came halfway, and that's all right. But it's the presence, nevertheless, that counts. Again, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and don't let this experience discourage you from maybe trying out other MUNs, because it is going to be way more better than this, definitely. All right then. Uh, well, since the awarding session has ended, I give control back to the MC, if you would please.
Okay, delegates, congratulations for your achievements. And delegates, don't worry if you did not win the awardee. What's the matter is that you have got your knowledge. You can improve your skills, and you can create the what is that networking, right? Okay, and when you feel you've got this benefit, you already the winner. So keep high spirit, delegates. Yeah, thank you, delegates, for joining short diplomatic course by Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, Universitas Pajajaran. We look forward to seeing you at at the next Fpci event. And remember, guys, in the next month we have join kajian, and don't forget to join with that. And I wish you all pleasant day and hope you have a really good life. Thank you, and I will back to the committee for photo session. Hello, committee. Hi, committee. Can you conduct us to create the session? Hello.
Halo, sebentar. Kita foto dulu ya.
Sip.
Teja, Nayo, Eca, Yasmin. On cam dong. Yasmin dan Teja. Yaudah deh, langsung aja ya. Ayo, semua bergaya. 1, 2, 3. Oke, sebentar. Sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Oke, thank you guys.
Thank you semuanya.
Terima kasih semuanya.
Thank
Terima
you.
kasih
Semuanya.
Banget tapi tadi tidur. Kalian susah mikir-mikir, aku tidur dong. Jadi kayak aku
ini yang live di YouTube bakal di save nggak sih?
Otomatis ke save sih di YouTube-nya.
Berarti ntar kelihatan dong Aldi diginiin sama mamanya tadi. Gitu.
Oh
apa?
iya.
Iya gitu.